We're all set? Awesome. So good morning and welcome to the Hamburg UU.
Can you take your mask off on?
I can. I'm 20 feet away, so hopefully I'm safe. Okay, can you hear me now? So good morning and welcome to the Hamburg Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Susan Frawley. It's my honor to be in the pulpit this morning. And in just a moment, we are going to move into our Sunday program. Know that we are taping it and also projecting it onto Zoom, so we have friends that are joining us there. We will also be posting this on Facebook and YouTube, so you can always go back and check it out or share with friends that we are available via the internet. And so, according to our order of service, it is announcements time. So if there are any announcements, Jerry.
Kathy and Jerry Saab will donate the Christmas tree again this year, and I'll get it on Thursday and put it in the stand. And next Sunday, when Susan is here after service, we can decorate the tree.
So, thank you for following up on that and making sure that occurs. Other announcements? I know Mariana put into our newsletter that we are going to be taking donations for gift cards for needy families at the school across the street. What was not in there because we didn't put it was when the deadline for that. And so we are going to make the deadline for donations that Sunday before Christmas, which I think is the 18th. I didn't look it up before I got it. So just the Sunday before that Christmas. 19th, thank you, Jerry. So that way we can purchase the cards, get them over to the school social worker, and they will make sure that the families get those gift cards. Again, our ministry on the block continues. Any other announcements that anyone wants to share? All right. So we're going to listen to a prelude by Max Goldrich. So to bring us into a spirit of fellowship and connection, I offer these opening words for you today. These words are from Stephen Schick. He writes in the Be the Change online essay. And this is called Finding Thanksgiving. Spirit of life, God of love, let me write a thanksgiving on my heart. In clean lines, I will inscribe what pleases me. A warm autumn day, a quickly spreading smile on a child's face, the still warm touch of an aging loved one. Then I will write the names of all who have been with me at moments of great discernment. Let gratitude pour from my soul as I recall their gifts of time, patience, and unconditional love. I will draw empty lines for those whom I will never know, but who gave needed gifts to my mentors. In this world of endless distractions and complications, I pray for the wisdom to humble myself in gratitude for these gifts beyond measure. Help me to learn thankfully to give to others. These are the words of Stephen Schick in his essay, Finding Thanksgiving. And so I'm going to invite you, I almost skipped the chalice budget, sorry. Andy, would you be so kind to light our chalice this morning?
Oh, thank you.
And in our order of service, if you will all find our chalice lighting words, and I invite you to recite them together as Andy lights our chalice. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. And now I invite you to find in our hymnals, hymn 349, We Gather Together. Nan will play it through for us once. And then I invite you to rise in body or spirit as you be able and willing this morning and join in singing. And as is our tradition, we share our joys, our sorrows, our concerns. And so, I invite you to come forward. And if you desire, you may light a candle and tell us in a sound bite what is on your heart and mind. I'm going to share with you this morning that my heart is very heavy. A very dear friend of 30 years died of COVID on Friday. Sadly, she was anti-vax and anti-mask. Unfortunately, by the time that she knew she had COVID, she lasted 2 days in the hospital. She leaves a mother, a husband, 4 children, and I've been friends with her for 30 years. Even though she was anti-vax or mask, I still, that friendship was more important, even though we did it from a distance. And I'm holding her and her family in my heart today. You may come forward and share.
This morning, in honor of my father, who passed on the eve of his 92nd birthday this past spring, as we loved him dearly. And in respect to my mother, who survives him, as if she celebrates another birthday, she herself will be 92 this year, in the new year. And I'm giving thanks to find you all here and be welcome once again after having endured 5 surgeries in the last 3 years due to my injuries and congenital birth defect.
I have a joy. We went out Friday night with my son from Palmyra, and my granddaughter was there from Virginia, and I told her she has her first job as a chiropractor now, and she's doing well. She's got 40 clients already, and she likes her job. So it's nice to see them grow up and become adults and in their own life.
It was a joy for me to gather with my family for Thanksgiving. Concern in that day was one friend who invited herself who came unvaccinated. But anyhow, not present at our table was my daughter, who is in London. But it's a joy to my mother's heart, even though British don't celebrate Thanksgiving, of course. She's had not just 1 or 2, but actually 3 Thanksgivings among her friends there to celebrate this American tradition with her loved among her friends. That is a heartwarming thing for me.
I like to light a candle. For me personally, I like to celebrate Advent, like in my UU sort of way. And so today would be the first Sunday of Advent, and the theme is hope. And that's something, I'm always trying to be positive and carry hope with me as we face challenges in our family. And I feel a lot of people have shared some pretty, heavy things in their heart. So just wanted to light a candle.
So this is a joy. Last weekend, I was able to perform my original song live in front of quite a few people, and it was really fun. And in addition to that, my album should be out soon. So figuring out some things on it, but it's exciting.
For all the concerns, for all the joys, for all that has been shared and all that is kept in the hearts and the minds. Let us give to all of it our best intentions and bless it by saying, Amen, ye women, and blessed be. And now we have our first reading this morning. And it comes from author Michael Scanlon. This is an abbreviated part of his essay called Bronx Irish Thanksgiving. It is just after World War II. Boundless optimism sweeps across America, the undisputed leader of the world. Our family attends the 9 o'clock Mass at Sacred Heart Church in the High Bridge section of the Bronx. It is Thanksgiving morning. I'm telling you, my mother declares when we return home, when your father sailed to New York from County Sligo in 1928 at age 22, and I landed here from Needham a year before him at age 16, all by myself, we had no idea about pilgrims or Indians, turkeys or chestnuts. Mom bends down, smudging coal on my face and on my older brother Johnny's cheeks. Here, she says, this will make you look more like ragamuffins. Put on these old patched pants and your dad's old fedora. Push up the rim, bend it sideways like a vagabond. She stands back, surveying us, making sure that we look very much like street urchins. Off you go now, and be back before the company arrives. We joined our fellow kid ragamuffins, knocking on doors, ringing bells of apartments in our Bronx neighborhood, as we held out little purses and chanted, anything for Thanksgiving? Anything for Thanksgiving? We take in the warm, delicious smells of turkeys cooking and cakes baking, all of that wrapped in from each apartment. People dropped a few pennies in our bags, an occasional nickel or a candy treat, and some even hand over empty bottles for us to collect the 2-cent deposit. In the end, we compare our bounty with our fellow little beggars and celebrate with a mini feast of our own at Julius Negroff's candy store, buying chocolate, turkeys, and candy corn. This begging as ragamuffins on Thanksgiving Day became a forgotten tradition by the 1950s, replaced instead by trick-or-treating on Halloween. By that time, our Thanksgiving mornings were taken up with touch football on the street, followed by watching the annual football game between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions on our little black and white 13-inch Emerson TV. By mid-afternoon on Thanksgiving Day, our Irish aunts and uncles and cousins arrive for the big dinner. They come clomping up the stairs to our 5th floor apartment, Cushman cakes in hand, all greeted heartily. Men in shirts and ties, the women in their Sunday best. All the cousins are together again. At the table, we look a bit like the family in Norman Rockwell's painting of A Bountiful Thanksgiving, though I know nothing of that famous picture in those days. The picture that we had hanging on our wall was Millet's painting of the angels. 2 peasants, a man and a woman, bowed in a noontime Thanksgiving prayer in the middle of a potato field. There were few activities that my mother enjoyed more than that as being hostess of a dinner party for friends and family. Everyone came together. Of course, no Irish get-together was complete without talk about politics and then song. Neighbor Patty O'Donnell would always come in singing this Thanksgiving blessing. Bless this house, O Lord, we pray. Make it safe by night and day. Bless these walls so firm and stout, keeping them and want and trouble out. Bless the hearth, a blazing there, with smoke ascending like a prayer. I should add that no blazing hearth was ever found even near our Bronx walk-up. But Patty, despite his quavering, high-pitched voice, always managed to instill a silent reverence of merriment in the evening's wind down. And so, as the evening went on, aunts and uncles and cousins with hugs and kisses bid goodbye more than once before they all go off into the end of the year cold night air. Until next time. They are all long gone now. My Irish mother and father, all the aunts and uncles, a brave generation of Irish men and women, pilgrims in their own way, who came to America in the 1920s and 30s and are no more. On the edge of sadness, we remember them with a grateful heart. And these are the writings of Michael Scanlon. Our second reading this evening comes from writer Eric A. Kimmel, again an abbreviation of his story, A Hanukkah Guest. Old Bear roused himself from his winter sleep. He stretched and yawned a gigantic yawn, and finally he poked his nose outside his den. A soft blanket of deep snow covered the ground. Spring was still many months away. Old Bear wrinkled his nose. What was that delicious smell? It smelled like something to eat, which reminded Old Bear that it had been months since he had eaten anything. Old Bear's empty stomach rumbled. He shook himself all over and lumbered out of his den to follow the delicious smell. Bubba Brainerd, took the last potato latke from the pan and put it in the oven with the others to keep warm. Baba Brena was 97 years old and did not see or hear as well as she used to, but she still made the best potato latkes in the village. Every year at Hanukkah time, all of her friends made their way through the snow to her little house on the edge of the forest. How they loved those latkes. Baba Brena always made plenty, but tonight, on the first night of Hanukkah, she made twice as many as usual. Tonight was special. Tonight, the rabbi was coming. Baba Brena put on a clean apron and set the table. She filled a bowl with nuts for the dreidel game. Kitzel, the cat, rubbed up against her ankles as she bustled around the kitchen. One last chore. Baba Brena went to get the candles for the menorah. Just then she heard a knock at the door. It wasn't exactly a knock, it was more like a soft thumping. My guests must be early, Baba Brena said. She opened the door, the cat hissed and dove under the table. Why, Rabbi, how nice to see you, Baba Brena exclaimed. Growled the old bear. And happy Hanukkah to you, she said back. Please come in. The old bear lumbered into the house. He shook the snow from his fur. Here, let me take your coat, Rabbi. My, how thick it is. It must be very cold outside. Baba Brena tugged at the old bear's fur. The old bear roared. Oh, you prefer to leave your coat on? That's all right. It is a bit chilly in here. Come into the kitchen. I set the table for a lovely Hanukkah evening. Old Bear followed Baba Brena into the kitchen. The delicious smells made his nose twitch, and he followed his nose to the oven. Rabbi, I'm surprised at you. You know we don't eat until we light the menorah. That's all right. I know you were teasing. I'll light the candles. Will you say the blessing? Baba Brena struck a match and lit the Shabbos candle. Then she lit the one for the first night. Old Bear muttered and growled, who has kept us, preserved us, and sustained us to this time. Oh, Rabbi, you say the blessing so beautifully. Baba Brena pulled out a chair, and the old bear sat down. We'll play one game of dreidel before dinner. Here are some nuts for you to play with, and some for me. The old bear's nose started twitching again. He picked up a nut and cracked it with his teeth. Rabbi, you won't have any nuts for the game if you eat them all now. Growled the old bear. Don't worry, I have more nuts if you need them, but you know the rules. First you put in some nuts, and I put in some nuts. And then we spin the dreidel. Baba Brena pushed half her nuts and half of Old Bear's nuts into the center of the table. She gave the dreidel a spin. Old Bear sniffed curiously at the dreidel as it whirled around. It stopped on the letter Gimel. Oh, Gimel, that means take all. I win. And Baba Brena swept all the nuts into her apron. Roar! Bear roared. Don't be angry, Rabbi. It's only a game. Here, she tossed him some more nuts. The old bear caught it in his paws, cracked it handily, and begged for more. No, Rabbi, no more nuts. It's time for dinner. Old Bear snuffled and grumbled. Baba Brena opened the oven door and took out a platter filled high with steaming potato latkes. The old bear's nose twitched as she set them on the table. Do you prefer your latkes with sour cream or with jam? The old bear growled. Jam, just as I thought, said Baba Brena, and she smeared the big latkes with jam and stacked them on the old bear's plate. The old bear snuffled with pleasure as he gobbled all the latkes down. Baba took a wet towel and wiped the old bear's face. What an appetite! Have some more. Try some with sour cream. Baba Brena smeared a big pile of latkes with sour cream for the old bear, and he gobbled down every one of those in 3 bites. Baba Brena giggled. Oh, Rabbi, you must really love my latkes. I've never seen anyone eat latkes as fast as you. You eat like a bear. Old Bear ate and ate and ate until the latkes were gone. He licked jam and sour cream from his muzzle and paws, and then Old Bear began to feel dizzy. Drowsy. He yawned. His great head flopped on Bubba Braina's table. Rabbi, you're sleepy. And who wouldn't be after such a great meal? All the latkes are gone. It's time for you to go home. But before you leave, I have a Hanukkah present for you. Bubba Braina took out a red woolen scarf from the cupboard. She wrapped it around Old Bear's neck. This scarf will keep you warm on the coldest of nights. I knitted it myself. The Old Bear licked Bubba Braina's face. Bubba Braina blushed. Oh, Rabbi, at my age. Old Bear shuffled to the door. It was time to return to his den. He felt very sleepy. Good night to you, Rabbi. Happy Hanukkah, Bubba Braina called as she began to wash the dishes. And then she heard a knock. I wonder who that is. Shalom, Bubba Braina, shouted their friends and neighbors, wishing her happy Hanukkah. Shalom, everybody, Bubba Braina cried. How nice to see you all. Please come in. I'm sorry I don't have any more latkes. The rabbi came and he ate them all. But, Bubba Braina, don't you recognize me? I'm the rabbi. The rabbi couldn't have eaten the latkes, someone else said. He was in the synagogue with us the whole time. Bubba Braina scratched her head in bewilderment. Something strange is happening here. Rabbi, I think there is an imposter going around. He looks like you, he talks like you, he even has your beard. But just then, Esther and David, Bubba's grandchildren, cried, come look! Everyone ran to the kitchen to see what was wrong. They found the floor covered with bear tracks. A bear? I thought it was the rabbi, Bubba said. She had to sit down. And then she began to giggle. That was a very clever bear, or a very foolish Bubba. Well, let the bear have a happy Hanukkah. And we will make more latkes. Bring up some potatoes from the cellar. Esther, get my grater, and everybody help out. You too, Rabbi, but I promise they will soon be done. And deep in the forest, Old Bear slumbered in his den. His stomach was full of potato latkes. The warm woolen scarf was wrapped snugly around his neck. Pleasant dreams, Old Bear, and happy Hanukkah. And with that, we are going to sing the Old 100. It's in our order of service. You may stand as you will be willing and able. Nancy's going to play it through, and then we will all sing it together. And now we will take up our offering, which goes to serve the good works of this church. And Miranda is going to offer us a beautiful song by Peter Young.
You may know the chorus, so sing along. It goes, don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the McAfee children with thanks that their life didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when the right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. But light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go What's the commitment to those who have died when we cry out they've not died in vain? Have we come this far always believing that justice would somehow prevail? This is the burden and this is the promise. This is where we will not fail. Don't let us break the love, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let it break the love, let it shine through our love and our tears.
So I invite you to find the Spirit of Life, our meditation hymn, in our order of service. And you can remain seated and we will sing this together. So about 9 years ago, 2013, Thanksgiving and Hanukkah were on the same day. Thanksgiving is always celebrated on the last Thursday of November. Hanukkah always begins on the 25th day of Kislev, which is the 9th month of the Jewish calendar. The Jewish calendar is a lunar calendar, which means it's based on the cycles of the moon. In 1621, the Plymouth colonists and the Wampanoag Indians shared an autumn harvest feast that is acknowledged today as one of the first Thanksgiving celebrations in the colonies. Granted, some of that history may be stilted in many different ways. Lincoln declared Thanksgiving Day to be held on the last Thursday of November in the year 1863, with his hopes to reconcile a country in the throes of the Civil War. Hanukkah means dedication in Hebrew. The 8-day holiday celebrates the rededication of the Temple of Jerusalem after it was retaken by the Maccabees, a group of Jewish warriors from the Greeks in the 2nd century. The first Thanksgiving Day in 1621 lasted 3 days and 3 nights. Hanukkah lasts 8 nights and 8 days. Both holidays are all about the food that's connected with the occasion. Thanksgiving is full of a bountiful harvest with foods like corn and potatoes, squash, and a meat like turkey, which was not native to our United States at that time. Hanukkah celebrates foods cooked in oil to commemorate the oil that lasted for 8 days and 8 nights when there was only enough to last for 1. Latkes, potato pancakes that are fried in oil, are the best known. And simmus, which is a bountiful gathering of roasted vegetables, is also a part of the meal, and also meat, which is sometimes roast chicken or brisket. Many Thanksgiving tables have a cornucopia. It is a goat's horn or a symbolic ornamental container, which is filled with flowers and fruit and corn, anything that can be shown to know good abundance. A Hanukkah table has a Hanukkah, which is a menorah that has 8 arms on it and a middle area. All menorahs are menorahs, but not every menorah is a Hanukkah. And the way to know that is by counting the various leaves. Many will just have 6, but a Hanukkah has 8. The most important part for both holidays is that they are family or community celebrations. There is no religious obligation with Thanksgiving, and there is no temple obligation for Hanukkah. It's about people gathering to eat, to remember, and to show gratitude. Hanukkah probably comes closest to Thanksgiving. Because of changing calendars and timing, it is often sometimes in the middle or later part of December, which makes many people regard it as Jewish Christmas, partly because of all the lights and gifts for children. But that is a very gross misrepresentation of the origins and purpose. In fact, next Sunday, we're going to talk about the seasons of winter, and we'll talk more about those as well. But for now, this bridging of days from Thanksgiving to Hanukkah, which starts this evening, gives us pause and time to reflect on what we are grateful for. Many families and communities do a ritual of having each member say what they are thankful for at their Thanksgiving table. Each night of Hanukkah, members gather to light their Hanukkah by saying, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav. Next, I must Vitzivanu lehadek ner shel Hanukkah. My son has already made his bar mitzvah, lets me know often when I mess up my Hebrew, but I got that right. Praised are you, O God, ruler of the universe, who made us holy through your commandments and commanded us to kindle the Hanukkah lights. These are very important to know that in both settings, blessings, those received, those grateful for, and those hoped for, are a part of that gathering. History does not always do justice to truth, but for both the stories of how Thanksgiving came to be and how Hanukkah came to be, it is still part of celebration. As mentioned in 1621, the Plymouth colonists and the Wampanoag tribe shared an autumn feast. It is often made out to be a joyful and big gathering of friendship and harmony, but we know through other aspects that it wasn't necessarily that way. Historians don't always want to remember the bad, like smallpox, like the taking of land, the colonization that took place. Instead, the purpose of festivalness and celebrating rises above. A long time ago, in 168 BCE, King Antiochus IV ruled over ancient Israel. Not being a fan of variety, he demanded that if you didn't pray to the Greek gods and share in his same culture, you would be in trouble. This was a problem for the Jews, who still wanted to partake in Jewish traditions, like studying Torah and celebrating Shabbat. This made some of the Jewish people so angry that they decided to disobey the king. Priestess Matthias and his sons were joined by other Jews to fight back against the king. One son, Judah, aka Judah Maccabee, stepped into the spotlight, all of his fellow fighters, the Maccabees, in an attempt to save the Jewish heritage. Even as the king's soldiers rode in on elephants to attack, the Maccabees stayed strong and drove them right out of Jerusalem. Upon their victory, the Maccabees went to clean up the temple and decided to light the menorah, which is an oil-burning lamp. And as the story goes, they only had enough oil to burn for one day. But miraculously, the oil lasted for 8 days and 8 nights. And that is why Jews celebrate Hanukkah for 8 days and 8 nights. And they light candles on each of the nights to remember the miracle and the triumph. Thanksgiving, with its autumnal harvest and timing, probably comes closest to the Jewish festival of Sukkot, which follows after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in the regular calendar. And it celebrates the fruitfulness of the land. And as we already know, Hanukkah has absolutely nothing to do with the birth of a child or the legacy of a man in red who leaves presents for good boys and girls. But in our culture and society, there tends to be a blending and sometimes a lack of remembering. Even with the differences, it is the commonness in both of these, the Thanksgivukah, that unites us. This may be a forgotten concept or practice. We live in a very polarized world of politics, science, race, and economics, and justice. It's my hope that each of us can enjoy this time of gratitude, connection to family and community, be them blood or chosen, and rejoice in a time that allows for all of us to have our lights present and blazing, be they in pumpkins, Hanukkah, or trees in the house. All of these are part of our bringing light and joy into the world. And there'll be more about this next Sunday. A little harder to do today, but as we are socially distanced, this is a time for you to share your thoughts, reflections, or ideas on this topic of Thanksgivukah. So I invite you to share whatever you would like to share.
Reverend Father, my name is Maria Crab. It's nice to be welcome back. I've missed the big community here. And this Thanksgiving, I kind of had a mesh of the traditions of North America and Native Americans, and historical lore, and Jewish traditions unknown to me. Just but by instinct and convenience, I roasted my vegetables in a Dach Schwab and a clay pot that is designed to bake things or roast. And I traded for that with another woman at a craft fair where I made custom-made wreaths from flowers that I grow. And this year was a good year. And I give thanks for my Jewish friends and hold dear the memory of Reverend Rabbi Chasen. His family name is on the crossroads in Williamsville, where there's a great community of Jewish people. And I gave thanks, I believe, and didn't feel sorry for myself that I was eating alone. As I looked forward to coming to see you all again and to be a part of it. And I give thanks.
Yeah, Thanksgiving made me think of the years, the various years. And many years ago, we'd always get together at my mother's house at the lake, and what a big table we'd have full of people, you know, and now we do it in a small way. And I remember when it first made that change of not doing the big thing with the old family, it was hard. It was hard to accept that was changing.
I'm looking at the Jewish star up there and thinking, you know, what's the Jewish tradition or that's one of the 6 principles that Unitarianism is built on? I don't know what it is, but isn't there something from the Jewish tradition that's one of those 6?
My guess is it's our engagement in democracy, which is part of a belief of community. I'm guessing Chris is also saying that.
I have to look that up.
I'm going to guess it's that one, but then again, I could be wrong. But I would guess that aspect of, social democracy and the use of the democratic process in making decisions. But there could be many others too.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up today.
Bring it next week because we'll be
Yes.
talking about 'tis the season, so we can share that. But there's a lot of commonality, even in our Christian, which again, we'll talk about those too. So lots of crossover. Other thoughts, reflections? Everybody's still in a turkey coma.
Yeah, it's a very sentimental day, isn't it? My mother loved Thanksgiving. We always did what Mary Ann is talking about. Everyone flocked to the Finger Lakes, the big table. And then we eventually had my parents at Weinberg in Western New York, and my mother died on Thanksgiving Day in 2005. So even though it was very emotional, it was still like, well, somehow it seemed like the right day for her to die.
Any other sharing or thoughts? I don't want to cut anyone off, but, and you're right, sometimes there's a lot, we've had this big day in whatever way, and then there's always that after. It's not just Thursday, it falls into the weekend, and now for Jews, tonight starts Hanukkah, and other Advent, and other seasons as well are all beginning. It's that time. But it is a time of reflection and different memories and different experiences. So I thank those who shared, those who gave their attention, because when we do this, it's not just sharing with each other, but you're also ministering to me, and I appreciate that. We have announcements in here twice. Okay. That's okay, that's why I did, because normally we do it then, and I saw another. So we had our announcements, unless there's any other announcements people thought of between then and now. And let us move to hymn 223, which is Rock of Ages. We'll take a second to find that. And Nan will play it through for us. And then I invite you to join in singing. benediction today, I share with you part the meaning of Hanukkah, which is to rededicate. And I ask you to think about rededicating yourselves to the thanks and the gratitude that we also share in this aspect of Thanksgiving. And so may we walk this week in dedication and in thanks for all that we have. And so, if you could find the extinguishing the chalice in the order of service, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And I hand it over to the piano. I'm giggling because Sweeney Todd, which what he was playing, is also the Amherst High School. So anyway, we are not having coffee hour today because we want to be in compliance with the rules that the county